Hello, my name is Dr. Donna Robinson, Senior Manager for Programs and Operations for Casa DC. And I would like to welcome you today to our grand open house. Today you will learn about all of the varied programs we have here at Casa DC, as well as how to refer our most needed youth to receive a Casa volunteer. So without any further ado, I am going to pass the mic over to Allison Kahn, our Chief Operations Officer.
Brief introduction as to who we are as Casa for Children of DC, what our model looks like, why we do what we do, and who our different programs are. So we are going to start with a better understanding of who Casa for Children of DC is and where we fit into the wider Casa community and DC. Casa for Children of DC's mission is to connect every court-involved youth in DC with the one-on-one support of a consistent adult figure who can advocate for their best interests and promote positive outcomes. Our ultimate vision is that every trauma-impacted youth in DC receives excellent advocacy and support to unleash their full potential to thrive. Casa for Children of DC was formed almost 20 years ago in 2002. Since that time, we have trained over 2,000 advocates and served over 1,900 youth. We are a DC chapter of the National Casa and JAL program. Though we are based off of the National Casa and JAL model, which provides one-on-one court-appointed special advocates to foster youth, we provide unique programming such as serving juvenile justice involved youth, and really ensure that our work promotes the specific needs of DC's youth. We work with a particular model that takes the Casa model of one-on-one volunteer mentorship and best interest advocacy, but we also incorporate that with 4 domains that we've specifically identified at Casa for Children of DC to best serve the youth of DC, and to also ensure that we are addressing the areas of a youth's life most impacted by childhood trauma. A little bit more about what that mentoring and one-on-one support looks like. Casa volunteers form a one-on-one mentor relationship with a youth or a sibling group. Casa volunteers engage youth in positive activities and work with youth towards goal attainment. Youth are supported across 4 key domains: permanency, education, well-being, and life skills. So what do those look like? These are our core mentoring activities across our 4 domains. First and foremost, our volunteers visit with youth 2 times per month. That consistent engagement, that relationship building is absolutely vital. And next we have engagement and support across our 4 domains. The first is permanency, working towards successful case closure, reunification, guardianship, adoption, or ensuring if youth is going to age out, that they're able to do so in a way that they have independent life skills and have transitioned towards adulthood successfully. Our Casas also really work to ensure that our youth are in a stable and safe placement. Next, we have education. This includes really helping our youth with academic achievement, but also incorporating learning in their life. Our Casas help support youth in learning activities, promote attendance and academic success. Our Casas have the opportunity to visit youth at school, to engage with academic providers, and also do some core work with older youth around attainment of graduation and working towards higher education or skills training. Next, we have well-being, addressing our youth's behavioral, emotional, and physical well-being. And our Casas provide key support here, educating and helping youth practice coping strategies, engaging youth in recreation, really being that positive support and engaging in positive relationships with the youth, but also really working collaboratively with the youth's team, which we'll talk more about. We don't set those appointments for physical needs for our youth, medical needs for our youth, but we do really work with the team to ensure that those needs are happening and being addressed. And next we have life skills. Life skills is really working from our youngest youth to our older youth on some of those key experiences of exposure to new experiences, character building, working towards goals, exploring career interests, and then really strategic work with our older youth such as engaging in budgeting and working with youth for preparation for the workforce. And that is our mentoring side of our core model. Next, we have our advocacy side. Casa volunteers advocate for their youth's best interests in court and the youth's interdisciplinary team, such as their social worker, their JL, their probation worker, based on the personal relationship that they form with the youth through that mentoring side and an assessment of the youth's needs and supports. Casa volunteers are appointed by the court and have the authority to participate in court hearings, team meetings, to address records, and to engage with important individuals in the youth's life, such as academic providers, which we discussed, placement providers, and other individuals. We have several core advocacy activities to support the mentoring side and to ensure we're able to communicate recommendations and supports needed to address the youth's needs. Our Casa volunteers assess our youth. That includes observation, visiting, reviewing records. They communicate. That is, as we've talked about, communicating with important individuals in the youth's life, the teachers, the placement providers, but it also means regular collaboration with that interdisciplinary team, the social worker, GIL, probation officers. And that all leads to that core advocacy. Our CASAs have the opportunity to write court reports. They are court-appointed special advocates. They have the opportunity to appear in court and provide recommendations in court. Our CASAs recommend permanency goals alongside the team, but they also provide advocacy to that interdisciplinary team for needed supports and services that may arise in between court hearings. And something important to note about the advocacy side is even if a youth is not well engaged in those in-person mentoring supports, the assessment and communication and collaboration can allow the CASA volunteer to still provide robust best interest advocacy, even if that is coming from these assessments and communications, and they do not have as regular engagement with the youth. What makes CASA DC unique? CASA DC is the only organization in DC that unites mentoring and court-appointed advocacy. CASA volunteers work with court-involved youth in the child welfare system, juvenile justice system, or those who are duly involved in both. And that is unique to CASA DC versus other CASA chapters throughout the country. And our 4 domains and special programs are also unique to CASA DC. Those have been developed based on the needs of DC youth, the trauma impact that we've observed, and are unique to CASA DC versus national CASAs and CASA chapters that you would see throughout the country. So why do we do this work? What makes this work important? We know, based on rigorous research and data, that you can observe that foster youth face lower academic achievement than their peers. And this is true in DC and throughout the nation. Foster youth have increased risk of future unemployment, poverty, homelessness, and justice involvement. Abuse and neglect and removal from home are adverse childhood experiences that contribute to childhood trauma. And adverse childhood experiences have been linked to risky behaviors, lessened school performance, relationship difficulties, and chronic health conditions through adulthood. But at the same time, we also know that a consistent positive adult figure can serve as a protective factor against adverse childhood experiences. And if you're interested in learning more about adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, the CDC has done some rigorous review of adverse childhood experiences and their protective factors. You can go to cdc.gov and read a lot more about that and what some of those protective factors, including that consistent adult figure, can look like. Studies also show that youth with mentors are more likely to have improved academic outcomes. Mentor-mentee relationships can promote positive skill development, healthy coping mechanisms, and career readiness. And youth with CASA volunteers have reduced number of placements and increased services based on studies that have been done by National CASA. So these are some of the core reasons why we have our CASA core model and why we do the work that we do. So we're going to look at very briefly CASA DC's programs. And this is the core of our open house. After we move on from our introduction, you'll have the opportunity to go into breakout rooms and learn more about the individual programs of your choice. So everything we've talked about today is a part of CASA core. Casa DC seeks to provide consistent support through mentorship and advocacy to youth, which recognizes the impact of trauma experienced by court-involved youth and evidence-based practices to help youth thrive. This is the Casa core. This is the foundation of our work across programs, and every one of our special programs uses this model as a foundation. Our special programs include Bridges, which serves youth involved in the juvenile justice system, Empower, supporting youth survivors of trafficking and sexual violence, the Family Treatment Court or Thrive program, supporting substance-impacted youth and families, MAP, the Multicultural Advocacy Program, serving immigrant and first-generation youth, and Preparing Youth for Adulthood, empowering transitioning youth towards a successful
Now going into the PYA program specifically, just a little bit about our program history. We were established in 2007, and the goal was to, we aim to build life skills and empower youth as they transition into adulthood. Casa assists youth in all aspects of transition, which include preparing them for their hearings, preparing them for YTP meetings, which are youth transition planning meetings, preparing youth for meetings with the judge, and the meetings with the judge are really just a time for the youth and the judge to get to know each other. I've also seen personal relationships grow between the judge and the youth, where the judge will actually send the youth gifts during their birthdays or Christmas or other holidays. So it's really just that time for the judges and the youth to get to know each other so that the youth can better understand where the judge is coming from on their case, and for the judge to better understand any issues or struggles that the youth may be facing. CASA's work collaboratively with teams to prepare you to be independent and functioning adults and productive adults. I'm gonna go into PYA's population a little bit. So currently we are serving 23 youth with a capacity to serve up to 30 youth. Our population includes youth who are ages 14 to 20, and for those who are recently aging out of the system, they may have an extension through the mayor's order. So we do have a few 21-year-olds in the program. Most of our youth, our older youth, have the goal of APLA. I would say a little bit more than 50%. And majority of our youth are Black, African American, or Latinx. We do have a few parenting teens and young adults, which our volunteers work closely with to just guide them into adulthood and guide them into being better parents or parenting, giving them parenting skills as they prepare to be parents and go into adulthood. Some of our youth are also involved in the juvenile justice system, and for those youth, their dual program is our Bridges program, which works with the juvenile justice involved youth. So we do, our volunteers do have the opportunity to work with the Bridges program and get support on anything involving the juvenile justice system. Some of our youth are also at risk or involved in sex trafficking. And for those youth, they are in our program, they are dual enrolled in the program Empower, which works with those youth. So our volunteers also have an opportunity to reach out to the Empower program to get support on how to interact with these youth, this population. So a little bit about what PYA specifically offers to our youth. Like all of our other programs, CASAs are in the courtroom with the youth. They're right there next to them. They're advocating on their best interests, providing recommendations to the judge and team on what they think will best be in the best interest of the youth. We also have quarterly workshops, and these quarterly workshops are for our youth, which our volunteers are also welcome to join. But these workshops involve financial literacy, resume building and job training, self-advocacy and knowing their rights. And with the knowing their rights piece, it really builds onto the Youth Bill of Rights document, which was provided by CFSA, Child and Family Service Agency. So it builds on that document, and all youth receive a copy. They know their rights and they know how to advocate on their rights. If they feel, I'm sorry, did a comment come through? Okay, I can't see comments, so if you are sending a comment or if you do have a question, you can just take yourself off mute. But there will be a point at the end for questions. So our quarterly workshops also touch on education and non-educational options and graduation requirements for youth, because majority of our youth are older, graduating high school, starting to look into college options, and some are even looking into non-college options, looking into trade programs and any other programs that they can get into. We also have workshops on housing resources and just so much more. There's a lot of free resources out there, and the PYA really wants the youth to have a list of these resources and know how to explore them. And our volunteers really work with our youth on how to explore these resources. So PYA, specifically PYA Casa's work with youth to connect them to opportunities to advance their education. I'm sorry? So our volunteers work with our youth to connect them to educational opportunities, set and review goals. Again, we have our quarterly goal setting meeting where we go over goals that we want to work with the youth on. And then we also backtrack and look at some of the goals that we were not able to accomplish and see how we can go forward with accomplishing those goals. Our volunteers also work to work with our youth to keep employment, gain and keep employment, identify housing resources again, and discuss permanency options with the youth. Youth should always be included on the permanency options, especially older youth, because it affects them directly. And our volunteers work with youth to understand finances and explore savings options. One thing that PYA really pushes is the Make Money Grow account, which is through CFSA. So we really try to push youth into opening those accounts and contributing as much as they can. And again, the know and understand your rights. Volunteers work with you to understand their rights, not just know them. And plan for aftercare. So a little bit about how our volunteers are trained. So, a little bit about our volunteers and how they are trained. So CASAs represent many different backgrounds. Our volunteers are teachers, some may be lawyers, some may be officers, some may be dentists, doctors. There's a variety of backgrounds when it comes to our volunteers. Our volunteers do complete 30 hours of pre-service training. So before they can even be appointed by the judge, they have to go through this training, and they also have to complete a set number of assignments to even be appointed as a volunteer. Volunteers also attend monthly in-service trainings, and they are required to have 12 credits worth a year. So these trainings can be on anything from how to write a court report to how to interact with a youth who is non-responsive. PYA volunteers undergo a specific training for our program. So this training really touches on how to work with older youth and what to expect during those transition years. And that goes into preparing you for graduation, employment resources and how to navigate those resources, navigating DC housing options and resources, because there are a ton of just free money out there. So it really touches on how to get those resources and how to get those resources, and just overall supporting youth through their aftercare, because during the aftercare stage, or supporting youth to aftercare. Because the aftercare stage can be scary for our youth, and youth really need that support, especially from their volunteers during that time. So going into some of our current referring agencies and partners, PYA referrals come from many different places. But to break it down, most of our referrals come from our GALs. Some have come from our judges directly, and all other that may include other organizations and foster parents. PYA partners and funding sources can include DC Courts, which funds the PYA program, and then other funding sources may come in the form of grants. PYA is looking to expand our referral and partnerships to include social workers, DCPS. We're really trying to reach out to the school's foster care liaisons, because they work directly with the youth, the foster youth in the school. So they could send referrals over to PYA to, for youth that they think could benefit from our program. We're looking to have our foster parents get more involved in the program, sending referrals over, really connecting with the volunteers and working with the volunteers on how to best support the youth. Looking to expand our partnerships with local organizations, and what that basically means is bringing in local small organizations to help us in our workshops, training. We're trying to expand our workshops for you to include anything from life skills on like how to cook, cleaning, and different things. So we're really trying to expand our partnership with local organizations, as well as national organizations. So working with national organizations such as Foster and Change Network to really put on workshops for our youth that would benefit them as they transition into adulthood. Now, so I think the best way to really explain how PYA is making a difference is through storytelling. And there are like tons of PYA stories I could have chosen, but I just really wanted to focus on this one story. Of course, this names have been changed to protect the identity of the youth, but just to briefly go over this story, it involved a 20-year-old youth who is parenting. She participates in all services and programs offered by Casa DC, as well as her team. She is in the process of enrolling into a GED program and is even pursuing purchasing a home with her partner using the many DC programs for resources for first-time home buyers. She even contributes to her savings account, her Make Money savings account. And she is really working on budgeting. This is a youth who's just really working hard and trying to prepare herself to go into adulthood. With the help of her Casa and her team, she has made many achievements and worked hard to improve her life for herself as well as her child. However, like many of our youth, she felt she had a strong obligation to financially support her family and who is in need. Although she continues to save, using her savings to help her family really set her back. Sorry, some people are trying to get in. Using her savings. I'm sorry. Yeah. Really using her savings to help her family set her back a little bit. So after her meeting after the Casa met with the youth, the Casa then met with the supervisor, and they began brainstorming possible funding sources to help the youth reach her goal. With a little time and brainstorming, the PYA was able to work with the Casa to identify funding sources that would be deposited directly into her savings account to help her reach her goal, which I believe was, her goal was to reach $2,000. So we were able to identify funding sources to help her reach that goal. So going a little bit into who can make referrals and how referrals are made. Basically, anyone who believes an older youth may need one-on-one guidance and further advocacy can make a referral. And just to backtrack a little bit, so again, teachers, lawyers, principals, anyone can make a referral, but only the court, I just want to note that only the courts can actually appoint that CASA to the case. So again, school officials such as teachers, counselors, cafeteria staff, judges, placement providers such as foster parents and group homes can make referral. Lawyers, again, parole officers, parole officers, doctors such as primary care or therapists. So anyone can make a referral. And again, I repeat that only the courts can appoint the CASA to the case. And again, organizations can also make referrals.
A lot in your individual sessions, and now we are going to look at how to be able to refer you to Casa DC, and I'm going to pass it over to Haley.
Hi everyone, I'm Haley and I'm one of the CASA supervisors here, and I am going to be talking to you a little bit more how you can start the referral process. So all CASA DC referrals must be authorized by the court. However, when a partner identifies a youth for CASA services, we can facilitate that referral through coordination with the court. So there are 4 ways to make a CASA referral through kind of 2 different avenues. So the first avenue is directly through the court. And one way that you can do it through the court, so this is way 104, is requesting CASA services at the court hearing. And another way is filing a motion through the attorney specifically. And then the second avenue is through CASA DC ourselves. And the first way that you can do that is by emailing the referrals at casadc.org and requesting a referral that way, or completing the survey at this link, which I believe Donna will be putting in the chat for you all.
Or you can complete the Get Feedback referral survey using the link below and make a CASA referral or request at that point. If you have any additional questions, feel free to contact the program manager for either of the programs that you're interested in, or you can send your questions to referrals@casadc.org. Thank you for attending our session today.